What's up, guys? Welcome to Chasing Pelagics. I'm Jeff, and this is your SoCal fishing forecast for Thursday, July 20th. Quick look at our weather here. We finally got summertime weather on a consistent basis. It's been pretty darn hot, to be honest. But we still have these overcast mornings. Looks like we're going to see more of it with some patchy fog. The last few days have been fog until 8:30, 9 o'clock, and then it burns off pretty quick. It wasn't very thick. But it looks like with these outside northwest winds that we could be seeing it be a little bit more denser and a little bit more patchy. So we'll see what happens. But our biggest concern is going to be the wind here on the outside. And we're looking at Thursday here, coming into Friday. And that yellow signal you see there on the top left corner, that's 20 knot winds. And it's been racing down the coast for pretty much the last 10 days, which is why you haven't seen any more of those Golden Gate bluefin. Those guys just can't even get out of the bay. It's been 25, 30 knots and 8-foot seas. So, but we do have a small craft advisory until Thursday, but you can see what's really going on here. We're going to get a little bit of eddy action here, but these winds are really ripping through the Channel Islands. So heading further west is not going to be a good scenario for most people as well. So coming into Monday, things like they lighten up a little bit, but really they're just changing direction here on the outside. So this is our marine forecast here. You kind of see the way things look. So this is from Point Magoo, San Mateo Point, including Catalina and Acapa. And wind waves 2 feet or less, but this west swell 2 to 3 feet at 6 seconds. Patchy fog Thursday night, right? Very similar forecast for the rest of the week, right? And then you come up here, you start looking at Santa Cruz Island to San Clemente Island, 60 nautical miles offshore, and you got 15 to 25 knots, and you have 4 to 6 foot dominant period at 7 seconds. So this is a no-go for most sport boats. I'd say probably almost all of them, and definitely a no for private boats. So you really need to stay inside this little shadow here of the wind. And if all goes well, I think some of these areas are still fishable as long as you're not really going west of Santa Barbara Island. So depends on the boat you're on and what your choices are. But let's talk about these water temps. We finally got the sun out. I told you these things are going to jump up here rather quickly, and here we are. We got 72-degree water pretty much everywhere. So this is the 8-day chart. The fog is still making things a little bit patchy, but you can definitely see we have nice warm water all around here. So really, what that means is you can run into fish pretty much anywhere in this warmer water at any given time. But we're going to focus on the areas where we're seeing a lot more volume, and we're going to go from there. So we're going to stick with the 8-day chart for now, just so you can kind of see where this wind line is of water temps as well. Channel Islands, not much going on in the Channel Islands right now. That wind is going to keep a lot of people off the water, so no real good reports coming from there at the moment, but no signs of sea bass in the last week or so coming from this area. You might find some yellows as this warm water makes it up here, and we'll see how it goes once things kind of chill out here over the next coming weeks. San Nicolas Island, don't even bother checking it out. No reliable fishing resources with this wind lately. I wouldn't bother with that either. Santa Barbara Island, I heard that there's still some yellows around. There's a little bit of squid around too, and that's what they're eating. Whether you have to have squid or not sure at the moment, but usually if they'll eat squid, they'll usually eat an iron as well. So we'll see what happens with that. Catalina, there's been some sea bass still around in tight. Not the giant tankers, not those 60-pounders that we saw earlier in the year, but more of that, 25, 30-pound fish in tight in the dirty water, and you're going to have squid to catch those bad boys. Coming down south to San Clemente Island, pretty much rinse and repeat of last week. Still seeing some good yellows at the east end and also along the front side. You got to have that clean water with some current, a little bit of current, and those yellows have been everywhere from like 6 pounds to 25 pounds. It's super inconsistent in size. So be prepared that if you run into some rats, you can move on to the next school. And obviously the birds are going to be a pretty good tell at the island right now as well. Coronados, we did see some yellows over the last probably the last week or so, coming off the South Island. But to be honest, most people aren't going to fish these. You got to have conditions to make these islands work. And when offshore fishing's been pretty good, most people are going to opt for the offshore fishing. So let's talk about the offshore fishing. We've had this bluefin bite going on. You can pretty much draw a triangle from the Osborne to the 711 to the 499 on both sides of this escarpment here coming off St. Clooney Island. And you can expect to find fish even lower. But really looking at these edges here is where they've been cooped up for the most part. But again, like I said, with these water temps, you can find these things pretty much anywhere. But we've had a good majority of bluefin volume in this particular area. If you draw that in a triangle. Coming further south between the 289 and the macro bank, we've also seen some of those little pop-up foamers as well. Bluefin and yellowfin now with the 72-degree water. You can get both. Not really going to see bluefin over 72, but usually between 70 and 72, you'll see a mix of both schools. And I think last week we were like 85, 90% bluefin, and now you're starting to see a little bit more of like 60% bluefin, 40% yellowfin. So as things warm up here, these fish they're going to slide north or they're going to slide west to the bank here, Tanner Cortez. No one's fishing it because those winds are up. So until those winds die down, no one's going to come out and take a look at it. But last time they were out here, we still had yellowtail on both high spots, which is traditionally where they always are. Just those home guard yellows like to hang out. So until this wind knocks it off, which will probably be another couple weeks, then we'll start fishing out here into that August, September, October fishing when those northwest winds die and makes this stuff a lot more fishable. And usually by then this water is pretty toasty and it's all going to come west anyway. So see how that plays out. Covered the 289, which covered the macro bank. We still have a good volume of fish down here to the south. And I'm going to cover this and then I'm going to come back up north here. But basically from the 226 to the 425, even down to the upper finger and back, we've had fish on both sides. And the reason I'm going to point this out here is looking at our clover chart. We get some nice little patchy green water in here. And I wouldn't be shocked if you found a bunch up on the edges on here. But we also have some fish that are pulled up on the typical escarpment from the 371 up the canyon. And then they kind of find their way up to the macro bank. So if I switch back to the bottom detail here, you kind of see what I'm saying. They follow this canyon line. And, sometimes they stop with a 181, 182. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they pick the other side and just open water. So like I said, you could run into fish at any point in time here. That's usually where they're stopping and pulling up is where you're going to get a better chance for them to bite. That being said, we mentioned it in our written reports as well. We've seen some fish pop up here from the 14 all the way down to Oceanside. And generally when this stuff hangs out here, it's not always proper on the bank. So don't stick to that. But usually it's in that, like we have this nice shelf here. It's a pretty steep shelf. Somewhere in that 6 to 10 mile range in this area is usually pretty fishy. I got a couple spots here. Unfortunately, this chart doesn't blow up, but there's another little hump here north of the 267 that I like to fish a lot. Usually just fish around there. And you can definitely run into kill patties in this area too. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, guys. And you're really just going to have to focus on what you can fish, weather permitting. So if you're in a private boat, this stuff right here might be a good option for you. Slack tides definitely in the afternoon is to be better. And even at noon wouldn't be too bad either. If you can get out there when it's still glassy before the wind comes up, you got a better chance of spotting them with your binoculars. So you got that going on as well. And then further down south, not too much word. I mean, there's no real point at this moment to really drive past the upper finger. And that's a good 50 miles from Point Loma. So really, that's the scope of it. No one's really come out here west of the Butterfly yet that I know of and looked around. The fish down here seem to be a little bit more schooly size. The guys at Mara's are still catching some down here off the lower finger in this area. Today they had a couple, not huge volume, but started to see a couple bigger ones there, like the 80-pound range. But most of the stuff seems to be that schooly, 30 to 60-pound size. Bluefin, yellowfin, they're all kind of mixed in here. Bluefin being the bigger ones. Yellowfin, I haven't really seen anything over 40 pounds yet, or at least that's been reported. But the bigger bluefin have really been focused up in this area. And we finally started to see a couple of fish over 300. So that's a good sign. I like to catch one over 300. That'd be nice. Or even 300. That'd be really nice. So that's it for this week, guys. Be safe out in the water. I'll be on the water Sunday, hopefully taking a whack at this stuff if it cooperates with this wind here. But yeah, looking forward to it. All right, guys, take care.
Hey, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out our website and online store at chasingpelagics.com. And make sure you share the stoke.